You know that feeling when the alarm goes off on a Tuesday morning?
Oh, yeah. Pure dread.
Right. And you immediately start calculating how many hours you have to power through before you can just sit down again.
You're just doing the math of your own survival at that point.
Exactly. Because we live in a society that absolutely glorifies the grind. I mean, hustle culture insists that if you aren't exhausted, if you aren't chopping wood until your hands literally bleed, you just aren't earning your keep.
Yeah, it's this really pervasive myth, right? That hard work, and literally only hard work, is the linear equation for success.
But what if we've been looking at the entire mechanics of work and wealth and happiness completely backward?
I mean, I'd say we definitely have.
Today, we're taking a sledgehammer to that endless grind myth. We're doing a deep dive into the really analytical, highly counterintuitive frameworks of Naval Ravikant.
Yeah, drawing straight from the core concepts in the Almanack of Naval Ravikant.
Right. Our mission today is to explore why wealth and peace of mind aren't just, lucky accidents. And they definitely aren't the result of just outworking everyone else.
No, not at all. They are actual mechanical skills.
And I think framing them as mechanical skills rather than moral virtues is the critical first step here.
Totally. And to understand where this perspective even comes from, you kind of have to look at Naval Ravikant's own trajectory.
Right. He didn't start at the top.
Not at all. He went from being a struggling immigrant, working multiple jobs, to becoming this massive figure in the tech world. A lot of people call him a Silicon Valley philosopher now.
Which is a great title, honestly.
It is. But what makes his blueprint so compelling isn't the wealth he built. It's his diagnosis of how the modern economy actually functions.
Like how the rules of the game have changed.
Exactly. He argues that the world has fundamentally shifted. It no longer disproportionately rewards physical exhaustion.
Thank goodness.
Right. Instead, it disproportionately rewards high-leverage judgment. He basically says we need to step entirely out of external competition, the traditional rat race, and tune into the quiet, highly scalable power of your own specific nature.
So let's talk about the math of that rat race, because I think a lot of people feel like they're running on a treadmill that just keeps speeding up.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
Naval's first major pillar is a direct attack on how most of us earn a living. The core thesis here is that you will never get truly rich or truly free by renting out your time.
Precisely. And this is a really bitter pill for society to swallow.
Oh, for sure.
Because we culturally praise the visible, grueling effort of the hard laborer. The employee who stays at their desk until midnight is the one who gets the promotion, right?
Right. The whole first in, last out mentality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But from a purely economic standpoint, when you rent out your time, your input is strictly and unavoidably tied to your output.
Meaning if you stop working, the money stops flowing.
Yes. If you get sick, if you want to travel, or if you just need to sleep, you are inherently bottlenecked by the 24 hours in a day.
The math simply hits a hard ceiling. And it doesn't matter if you're a barista making minimum wage or a highly specialized corporate lawyer billing $1,000 an hour.
Right. The lawyer is obviously more comfortable.
Sure, much better couch. But they're still trapped in the exact same linear equation. If the lawyer isn't actively billing hours, they aren't generating wealth.
No, they aren't.
So to break that equation, Naval says we have to look at the concept of leverage. Success isn't about rowing harder. It's about building a sail to catch the wind while you rest on the deck.
I love that analogy. And the historical evolution of leverage is fascinating, actually. For thousands of years, leverage really only meant one of two things.
Okay, what were they?
First, you had labor leverage, having other humans work for you.
Right, managing people.
Yeah, but managing people is incredibly messy. It requires immense leadership skills, and frankly, people eventually want to go home.
Fair enough. What was the second?
Then, during the Industrial Revolution, we saw the rise of capital leverage. Having money work for you through investments or factories.
But you need money to make money in that scenario.
Exactly. You need permission from a bank or an investor to get started. But Naval introduces a third, modern category that just changes everything.
Permissionless leverage.
Yes, permissionless leverage.
Let's break down the actual mechanics of that. When we talk about permissionless leverage, we're largely talking about code and media, right?
Absolutely.
And what makes them so revolutionary is this economic concept of the zero marginal cost of reproduction.
That is the exact engine driving this whole thing. When you write a piece of software or record a podcast or publish a digital book, You put in the grueling effort to create it once.
Right, the initial heavy lifting.
But the cost to duplicate and distribute that asset to a second person or a millionth person is practically zero.
Because it's digital.
Right. You don't need anyone's permission to create it. No gatekeepers can stop you from publishing it on the internet. And it acts as what Naval calls a tireless robot army.
I love the robot army idea.
It's perfect. While you sleep, that code is still executing. That media is still being consumed.
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to inject a little reality here. Building that robot army like learning to code from scratch or recording 100 videos that literally no one watches at first. That requires massive amounts of unleveraged time.
Oh, absolutely. It's a grind.
You were grinding in the dark for years. So if everyone is focused on building sales and writing code, who is actually left to row the boat?
It's a great question.
Is Naval suggesting that hard labor is entirely obsolete or just that it doesn't scale for individual financial freedom? Because it feels like there might be a bit of survivorship bias here. Like the tech founders who made it are just saying, oh, just build a robot army, ignoring the thousands who burned out trying.
That is a very fair critique, and honestly, it's a friction point a lot of people struggle with when applying this philosophy.
Right, because it sounds almost too easy when they say it.
Yeah. Naval isn't suggesting that the necessary labor of society goes away, or that the initial creation phase doesn't require intense effort. You absolutely have to put in the hours to build the asset.
You still have to chop some wood.
Yes, but the distinction he is making is about the trajectory of that effort. If you pour 10,000 hours into a salary job, at the end of 10 years, you still have to show up on Monday to get paid.
Depressing but true.
But if you pour 10,000 hours into building a highly leveraged software platform, the effort eventually decouples from the reward. The asset takes on a life of its own.
So it's about momentum.
Exactly. It's the difference between pushing a boulder up a hill forever versus pushing it to the very top so it can finally roll down the other side on its own momentum.
Okay, but that exposes another massive flaw.
Right.
Let's say everyone listening to this deep dive right now realizes that renting their time is a trap. And everyone immediately starts learning to code and building media companies. We have a new problem. If I just build a generic piece of software or start a generic business podcast, I am instantly competing with millions of other people doing the exact same thing.
Right. You're just in a crowded ocean.
I've just upgraded my rowboat to a slightly faster sailboat, but I'm still stuck in a massive race. How do you actually escape the competition?
And that unresolved problem is exactly why permissionless leverage alone just isn't enough. Leverage is just a multiplier.
Right. It just scales whatever you put into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You still need to know what you're multiplying. You need to know your direction. To truly escape competition, Naval introduces the concept of specific knowledge.
Specific knowledge.
Yes, this is a deep, highly personalized understanding of a specific domain that cannot be easily trained or outsourced.
Okay, let's replace the usual cliches here. People always say, oh, your life is a unique canvas, paint with your own colors.
Right, which sounds nice, but
it tells us nothing about how the market actually works. I like to look at specific knowledge mechanically, more like a cryptographic encryption key.
oh, I like that.
Yeah, think about it. Your weird mix of teenage obsessions, your bizarre career detours, your highly specific way of solving niche problems that forms a complex 256-bit key that belongs entirely to you. And out there in the marketplace, there is a very specific high-value lock that only your exact key can open. If you try to use a generic master key like some skill you just bought in a 6-week online course because you heard it was lucrative, it won't turn the lock.
That is a brilliant mechanical way to look at it. Because if society can train you to do something in a generic course, society can and will train someone else to replace you.
Exactly. You become a commodity.
Right. Specific knowledge is usually found by pursuing your genuine, almost irrational curiosities. The key diagnostic tool Naval provides is this. When you're exercising your specific knowledge, it feels like play to you.
But to everyone else.
To the rest of the world observing you, it looks like incredibly difficult, highly valuable work.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. How do we distinguish between specific knowledge that is actually a high-value skill versus just a personal quirk or a hobby?
What do you mean?
Like, can literally any unique brushstroke be turned into a career that feels like play? I might be obsessively passionate about collecting vintage 1980s action figures. It feels like play to me. It's my unique obsession. But can I actually turn that into scalable wealth?
Well, 30 years ago, before the internet,
Yeah.
it was just a hobby.
Right, you'd maybe have a booth at a flea market.
Exactly. The local market just wasn't big enough to support a real business. But the internet has fundamentally altered market mechanics. It created an infinite long tail of consumers.
So the audience is global now.
Yes. Today, with permissionless leverage, someone with a deep encyclopedic obsession with 1980s action figures can build a massive YouTube channel, a paid newsletter, or an authentication business.
Because their passion makes them better at it than anyone else.
Precisely. Their obsessive specific knowledge allows them to spot market trends, verify rare items, and entertain an audience in a way that someone just, trying to make a quick buck could never fake.
Ah, so authenticity scales better than forced effort.
Completely.
The person who is just trying to capitalize on a trend will eventually get tired. They're forcing the key into the wrong lock.
Yeah, and it's exhausting.
But the obsessive collector is just playing. When the market inevitably gets tough or the algorithm changes, the person in it for the money quits because it feels like a grind. The person who is playing keeps going.
And they ultimately win the long game because you literally cannot fake the obsession required to acquire specific knowledge.
Your pure authenticity becomes your ultimate moat against competition. You aren't competing with anyone to be you.
You're in a category of one.
So let's follow this logic all the way through. Let's say you've found your specific lock, you turn your unique encryption key, and you deploy your robot army of code or media.
Okay, living the dream.
Right. You've completely escaped the rat race, your income is decoupled from your time, and you have achieved total scalable financial freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Are you automatically happy? Because we see billionaires and massive media personalities who are completely neurotic and miserable. If wealth is a skill they mastered, why did the peace of mind not follow?
Because Naval argues that happiness is an entirely separate, distinct internal skill.
Wait, really? A separate skill entirely?
Yeah. It has completely different mechanics than wealth creation.
Mm-hmm.
We are culturally conditioned by consumerism to believe that happiness is an achievement.
Like reaching a finish line.
Exactly. We think we're born empty, and we have to accumulate things, status, money, relationships, to fill up the tank and finally be happy.
Right, I'll be happy when I get that promotion.
But Naval argues the exact opposite. He defines happiness not as an addition to your life, but as a subtraction.
A subtraction. So he's saying happiness is the default state.
Yes, happiness is what is already there underneath the noise when you remove the sense that something is missing.
Okay, that makes sense.
We develop what evolutionary biologists and Eastern philosophers call the monkey mind. Our brains are evolved to constantly scan for threats and opportunities.
Which was great when we were running from lions on the savannah.
Right, it kept us alive. But in the modern world, it translates into a constant buzzing internal chatter. We're always anxious about the future or agonizing over the past.
So happiness is just turning that off.
Happiness is simply what remains when that monkey mind goes quiet.
Naval uses a concept in the sources that I think is the absolute linchpin of this entire philosophy. He says, desire is a contract you sign with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want.
Oh, that is such a powerful quote.
It really is.
Just let the mechanics of that sink in for a second. Every single time you say, I want that promotion, or I want that specific person to like me, you are subconsciously drafting a legal document in your brain.
A legal document that says, I am choosing to be dissatisfied with my current existence until this exact condition is met.
Yes, you're legally binding yourself to misery.
It's like our minds are these completely overflowing email inboxes or cluttered rooms. We often think that to find happiness, we need to receive some amazing new piece of good news in the mail. A bigger check, a better title, a new piece of furniture.
Mm-hmm.
But Naval's framework suggests the problem isn't a lack of goodwill. The problem is there's junk everywhere.
There's no space.
Right. Happiness isn't the presence of a new prize. It's systematically processing all the old anxieties, throwing at the old junk, and hitting inbox zero with your thoughts so you can finally just breathe.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. Meditation, mindfulness, finding internal peace.
Yeah.
These aren't about adding more positive thoughts to the inbox.
No.
They're about methodically processing and discarding every old, expired desire contract until you hit that inbox zero. When the box is empty, you are left with the quiet space of the present moment.
So what does this all mean? I have to push back hard on this for a second.
Bring it on.
Because, frankly, if desire is a contract for unhappiness, and the ultimate goal is this Zen inbox zero detachment, isn't that just a recipe for complete apathy?
Ah, I see where you're going.
How do we reconcile this? We spent the first half of this deep dive talking about building robot armies, deploying permissionless leverage, and hunting down the perfect market for our specific knowledge.
Right.
That requires massive, scalable ambition. How can a person simultaneously build a robot army of code and media, which requires ambition, while maintaining this state of desireless peace?
That is the ultimate paradox of this entire worldview. And it is exactly where the friction lies for high achievers.
Because it feels contradictory.
Completely.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile the outer game of wealth with the inner game of peace? The answer lies in the subtle but massive difference between how you engage with the process versus how you engage with the outcome.
Okay, explain that.
Naval doesn't say you shouldn't act. You absolutely play the game of life. You build businesses, you write code, you create art.
So you don't just sit in a cave.
No, not at all. But the suffering only begins when you attach your baseline internal identity to the outcome of those actions.
So you play the game, but you don't let the scoreboard dictate your worth as a human being.
Exactly. You do the work because the work itself relies on your specific knowledge. It feels like play. You genuinely enjoy the mechanical process of building the software or writing the book.
Right, you're enjoying the brushstrokes.
Yes, but you do not sign the contract that says, I will be miserable if this book doesn't hit the bestseller list by Tuesday.
Oh, wow.
You decouple your internal state from the external results. You accept that the markets are chaotic, the world will do what it does, and you simply make the highest leverage decisions you can in the present moment.
Without the frantic, desperate energy of needing the result to validate your existence.
Precisely.
It's the difference between acting out of inspiration versus acting out of desperation.
That's a great way to put it.
If I am acting out of desperation, I am entirely blinded by the desire contract. I'm anxious, I'm reactive, and ironically, I'll probably make terrible business decisions.
You'll force things that shouldn't be forced.
Exactly. But if I act out of inspiration, my monkey mind is quiet. I'm at inbox zero. I can observe the market clearly, use my specific knowledge, and make highly accurate judgments.
And as we established at the very beginning of the deep dive, high-quality, accurate judgment is the ultimate multiplier for wealth in the modern world.
Right.
Physical labor requires frantic energy. Judgment requires clarity. So inner peace actually makes you far more effective and lethal in the outer world.
That completely flips the script. We usually think we need to succeed to be peaceful, but this implies we need to be peaceful to clearly see the path to success.
Exactly, Reb.
Let's summarize this whole journey for the listener because it's a massive paradigm shift. The conventional blueprint tells us to row the boat as hard as we can. Naval's blueprint tells us to stop rowing and build a sail.
Right. Deploy a robot army of code or media that operates with zero marginal cost.
But you don't just build any sail. You carve your specific encryption key. You protect your wealth and your energy by leaning into pure authenticity.
Doing the highly specific things that feel like play to you, so the very concept of competition simply evaporates.
And finally, you recognize that winning the outer game doesn't automatically win the inner game. You secure internal freedom by recognizing that happiness isn't something you buy or achieve.
It's the default state that emerges when you stop signing desire contracts.
You clear out the mind's overflowing inbox, you enjoy the process, but you detach entirely from the outcome.
There is a brilliant concluding thought from Naval in the sources that distills this incredibly complex psychological balancing act into just 2 sentences.
Oh, let's hear it.
He says, tension is who you think you should be. Relaxation is who you are.
Wow, tension is who you think you should be. Relaxation is who you are. That perfectly captures the shift from fighting external expectations to trusting your internal specific knowledge.
It really does.
So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final practical question to mull over. We've talked about how happiness is a process of subtraction. So what is one desire contract you're currently holding on to?
Just one. Think about it.
Is it a specific title at work, a certain number in your bank account, or maybe a specific validation from a peer? Think about that contract and ask yourself, what would happen if you simply tore it up today, right now, before you even finish building your robot army?
Would you stop working?
Mm.
Or would you finally be able to do your work clearly?
We want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. If this mechanical breakdown of wealth and peace challenged your perspective, we highly encourage you to explore the original source, the Almanack of Naval Ravikant, for an even deeper understanding of these concepts.
It's definitely worth the read.
Until next time, keep building your sail and remember to occasionally just rest on the deck.